Hey, aloha everyone. Michelle Melendez with Blossom Inner Wellness, standtogetherhawaii.com. I am also the author of Great Maui Land Grab. I just have to say this won the third place in the American Book Fest under True Crime. It's up for two more awards. I'll find out in May and in June how it does. Super excited about getting the word out about what happened in Maui, and also super excited to interview Jason and Ananda of Americans in Action. So you guys who love Hawaii, you're going to be amazed by what these people have to share today. I first want to start, well, first I just want to welcome you guys. Much aloha and mahalo so much for joining me.
Much aloha. Thank you for having us.
Thank you
And you're going to
so
see
much,
a
Michelle. Aloha.
aloha, you're going to see a black dog. It's Batman. So Batman's behind us. I'm always protected. You got Batman in the room. So let's first talk about the mayor. The meeting that I had with the mayor, which you guys, the Hawaii mayor, the Big Island mayor, I went to meet with him with an auntie, Kanaka. She was Auntie Kalei from Molokai, but she lives here on Big Island, and also Pastor Kevin Hill of the Central Christian Church in Hilo. So us three went in. I had a total stack of documents to show him, printed out the entire Hawaii general plan, tabbed all the places where it said acquire and acquisition, uh, amazing information, showed him exactly where in the Hawaii general plan matches the exact terminology in the Agenda 21, which he had no idea about, gave him stacks of climatologists and meteorologists showing how the Earth is actually cooling, not warming, and that if we lower the carbon dioxide much further, that humans are going to be in danger of dying because it's about 300 parts per million. If it gets below 182 parts per million, we start to lose our life on the planet. And also, I gave him the 1,983 scientists from around the world that signed a World Climate Declaration stating there's no climate emergency. He was blown away. He gave us an hour. A lot of things he didn't know. He didn't know about the weather modification, which is the I had a document about that, the Weather Modification Act of 1976, the first weather modification patent in 1891. Yes, you guys, worst weather modification patent was over 100 years ago. So, but that is one thing that the climate change narrative doesn't talk about is man-made weather. So I just wanted to say so much mahalo to you guys because you guys you guys were really concerned when I said I was going in to meet the mayor, and you gave me so much really great advice that I really took to heart, and it went in and we had a really successful meeting. I feel in my heart. We'll see what happens, but I feel that he was really blown away by seeing what the documentation we had. So I just want to say thank you so much for supporting me with that meeting as well.
You're welcome, Michelle. That was our pleasure. And, it's so exciting because we, as sovereign beings, we are children of God under the kingdom of heaven. And as we learn, we secure our oxygen mask, then we help others so that they can learn. And we're uplifting one another. We're sharing information. People don't like to be taught, they feel talked down to, they feel condescended. And that's not our intention. When we learn something new, we're so excited, we want to share it. So I feel like with your spirit of sharing information for his knowledge and understanding for the greater good of all God's children, it's just beautiful. And bravo, bravo, because that's the way it's done. We're helping people. We're learning this stuff as we go. We have all been lied to. We are all in the same slave boat. And I just want to share with the Hawaii people, we love you. We're in the same slave boat here on the state in the States because of the corporate jurisdiction that came in and claimed jurisdiction over the American people, over sovereign people, and we fell for it. Our parents before us, their parents before them. So we're all in this together. And so please don't let the name Americans in Action deter you from hearing what we have to say. We declare ourselves to be sovereign beings under a sovereign God, and we are godly people. So hooray! And
Yeah,
great job, Michelle. That's amazing.
americansinaction.org, right?
.info.
Not info. Okay,
Yeah.
AmericanInActions.info. You guys, if you have any questions about any issues you're having with the court systems or anything, please contact them because they definitely can give amazing support and advice, really good advice. So I want to talk about, you guys understand the Hawaii Kingdom and what the Constitution of the Hawaii Kingdom said in 1839, 1840. So let's go ahead and go there. I think this is a good time to do that. Jason, if you want to show your screen, share your screen.
Oh, sure. First of all, I'm with Ananda here. We love you out there, Hawaiians. And what I really love about the Hawaiian people specifically is that their indigenous connection to the earth, to Mother Earth. Because what does it mean to be a true sovereign being? A true sovereign being is to be connected to source, because we were all made in the image of our Creator. The Declaration of Independence states that we are all made in the image of our Creator, endowed by certain unalienable rights. What does that mean? It means your right as a sovereign, which has been supported by various case laws throughout the United States of America. Your sovereignty is your right, which means it's unalienable, which means nobody can take that away from you. The only way you lose that sovereignty is if you volunteer to give it up. And even if you volunteer to give it up, technically you've never lost it because it's innate within you. You're just choosing not to exercise it. So by Michelle going in to meet with the mayor face to face, that's her on behalf of we the people exercising her unalienable right that's born within her to go stand upon the earth, the land jurisdiction, and stand in her knowingness and her empowerment to go speak to our quote unquote elected official who's supposed to be on behalf of we the people. So that's what it is to be sovereign, to exercise that innate right that you have empowered within you. And then it's up to us to take action, which is also why the founder of Americans in Action, Christo Hart, calls us Americans in Action, because it's about us exercising that sovereignty from within and taking the right action, just like Michelle did. And if everybody does that, whether it's just everybody on your own island or throughout all of the islands, let alone around the country and the planet, look at what all united sovereigns, that's why we say united we stand in sovereignty. Look what we could do as a collective consciousness to change the state. And when I say change the state, that's a double entendre in language, because it's a state of consciousness as well as the state of Hawaii. You can literally, with a collective unity, create a new consciousness, a new state of being, while that reflects back to us in the physical, called a new state, a Hawaii state.
Love
So
it.
just want to share that. So it's up to us. So
And I
thank you
want to
for
I
the
want to just add a little bit too. You guys, if you're on the island, especially Big Island, please join standtogetherhawaii.com, standtogetherhawaii.com, because I do send out emails about legislative bills that are going on the state, around the state, and also here on Big Island to let you know what's coming and what we need to stand together for or against. So please join standtogetherhawaii.com. It's free, just an email, and you'll get on that email list. And I just want to say mahalo for everybody who is on Stand Together Hawaii. We had a number of people just going to the mayor's office just to be in support, just standing with us. They waited outside, and I just really appreciate that because sometimes it feels like a lonely journey, and I definitely know I'm not alone. So I want to say mahalo to you guys for that. And Jason, thank you so much for that. And you have the Hawaii Kingdom Constitution of
yes,
1940.
of 1840.
1840, 1840.
1840. Yeah, the original Constitution. So I'm going to share the screen. I'll bring it up. Let's get that going here. Boom. So this is Hawaii's original Constitution. And maybe Michelle, you can pronounce that king. Is it Kamehameha? How do
Kamehameha,
I?
King Kamehameha the Third. He united the
Okay,
islands.
there you go. So what is sovereignty? Sovereignty is being sovereign. We as the people are, for lack of a better term, individual sovereigns with no subjects. Okay. So usually a sovereign is one that is like a king who has subject. When you read documents from the Babylonian Empire, meaning corporate America, United States, they'll often use language like, if you don't do this, that, or the other things, you may be subject. Which the opposite language is true too, that says if you do certain things, you won't be a subject, meaning you'll be sovereign. So anytime you read a document, you have to read what's there and decode it, which is what we help you do here at Americans in Action, while at the same time you have to see what's not written on the page, because what's not written on the page is just as important as what is written on the page. So this is your first Constitution of Hawaii, and it says granted. Granted. So granted is a very specific language. Everything in the world has to come down to speaking specific language, specific verbiage, specific words, specific spelling. Well, I call the Babylonian Empire corporate United States. I use those terms synonymously. So if you hear me say Babylonian Empire, you know I'm talking about the corporate United States. Okay. But in the world, so to speak, especially United States corporate, there's no money. Okay, we won't get into that too much. It's just exchange of credits and paper. It's all fiat currency. So, in as much as that there is no money, there's not any real contracts. They're all what's called colorable contracts. They look like contracts, but because they can't satisfy what a contract needs, which is consideration, which is money, they're all colorable contracts with a caveat. Unless it's a private contract between one man and one woman, or one woman and one woman, and one man and one man. That's living, that's private. So you can create whatever consideration you want. But in corporate United States, they're all colorable contracts because there's no money, therefore there's no consideration. So what is it then that we're doing? Well, we're operating in what we like to call trust law. And trust law, we say, is the highest jurisdiction. And we don't say it, but we explain that to people, that that's what the reality is that trust law is the highest jurisdiction of the law. The highest enforcer, for lack of a better term, is the creator. And the creator has to operate off of law too. So what's the creator is what we call law form. Well, that would be trust law. So in trust, there is what the basics is: there's a grantor, one who creates the trust, and then there's a trustee, one who manages the trust, and there's a beneficiary, those who benefit from the property that's in the trust. So if you look at this Constitution, the very first word, it says granted. Well, if that language is very specific, like I've been talking about, language has to be very specific. Why did they not say written by? Why does it not say, created by? Why does it use the word granted? Well, we've already talked about your rights being property, and anything that you have that's property can only be given to you or granted. You can't take property. That would be a violation of law, because it would be stealing and trespassing. You have to be given property. Property is another term for trust. Things that are in a trust are property. So they're using in this document here, this letter, granted. That would mean this is a trust document. So the Constitution, in actual fact, is a trust. And in trust law, you have to have what's called a trust indenture. The trust indenture is basically the rules or the charter of the trust. It talks about who the beneficiaries are. It talks about how the beneficiaries can use the property. It talks about how the property is enforced or traded, and so on, all the details. So, and the word of in English language is what's possessive. It's a possessive term. So this means when you look at the title, it says the first, meaning there wasn't anything before it, Constitution, and you can look up all the words Constitution. It's an embodiment. People say, what's the constitution of your body? How is it? Are you healthy? What's the Constitution? So look up what Constitution is. And of, there's that word of, meaning it's a property of something. Something owns this Constitution. Well, who owns this Constitution? Hawaii does. So what's Hawaii? It doesn't say the state of Hawaii. That would be corporate language.
Right.
So this predates the state. The state of Hawaii means
And I want to pause you
Hawaii.
for just a second, Jason, because he just said something really important. He said the state of Hawaii is the corporation. The state of Hawaii is a corporation, and it actually there's a seal that's on the back of all. Every time we go into the courtrooms or do a testimony, it's there's a seal in the back that says state of Hawaii, and that is a corporation. That means that is a corporation, not an actual state. Or anyway, I just wanted to throw that in there.
Yeah, that's right. And so if you break everything down, the state of Hawaii means Hawaii owns the state. Well, we already talked about state. That means state of consciousness, which is a collective agreement by the people, and then also the topography, the actual state. So you have to find out, well, who and what is Hawaii that owns this thing called a state? But if you go back to the first constitution, which still exists, by the way, I haven't seen any documentation or statutes or codes or anything that has repealed this, which means it's still alive. It's still living, which means the Hawaiian people can stand upon the language within this letter, within this trust. So we won't go through the whole thing, but I'll go through a little bit here, and just break down some of the language. Okay. So it says granted by the king, which I don't want to butcher that name,
Yeah,
but
neither.
that means the king is the creator of this trust document. So who are the beneficiaries? Okay. Well, this is a declaration of rights. So the rights are what are the rights? So it's declaring like sovereignty of rights, both of the people. Oh, so the people, not persons. Ananda has a book called The Dictionary That Can Save Your Life, which you can get on our website. And persons is a very different word, has a very different meaning than people. What's it mean, Ananda? Persons.
Persons. Well, in the US construct, it means corporation. If you think of a purser of a ship, it's one who is a money exchanger and overseeing financial documents. You think of a purse, something a container that you hold money in. So in the construct of the corporation, the person is defined as corporation, meaning a corpse oration, which is a dead entity. It's a soulless entity. It has no life. Remember, in the original Constitution for the United States of America, it was we the people. It was not we the persons. Now, prior to the 14th Amendment, the word persons meant people. But with a sleight of hand from good old Honest Abe, he converted the word person to mean corporation, but a lot of people didn't detect it. And here we are today being bought and sold and traded on the stock market because we're commodities. We're not living beings, according to the US corporate construct. So, person is a dangerous word. I don't refer to myself as a person unless I'm talking in casual conversation, just so we know how, so we can still have a casual conversation. But in all lawful matters, I refer to myself as a people, one of we the people, a sentient being, a living soul, a woman created by the Most High God, spirit filled, if you will.
Yeah, and I want to throw something in. Jason, could you do a stop screen share just for a moment, for a second?
Sure.
So the video that I did with Captain Matt Dankin, 33-year firefighter, retired fire chief. Yeah, that's right. He actually went into court and he said, the judge, and you guys are gonna love this story, but the judge says, do you want me to read you your rights? And he said, no, I know that I have unalienable rights. I am one of we the people. And he literally, so he was reading this and then he looks up and the judge had left the room. The
Mhm.
judge
Wow.
left. Yeah.
Judge had to
And then,
recuse himself. Yeah.
yes. And then the bailiff came up and turned off his mic. And he realized at that time he should have said, the judge has left the room. He has abandoned ship and this matter is now done, void or closed or however, dismissed or however you say it. But the bailiff came and turned off his mic. So, but that was what he said. He said, I'm one of we the people. So was pretty right
So,
on.
that's beautiful. And the reason why that happened is because the courts are all instrumentalities of the state of. the United States. Every state of, like state of Hawaii or state of California or whatever, fill in whatever state you want, is an instrumentality, meaning like it's a big franchise of the mothership. That's maritime language. Everything is in the water with maritime language, so they call it mothership, right? The relationship is a ship. When you have a marriage relationship in the corporate United States, it's licensing, it's partnerships in business. That's all it is, to create commerce in the currency, the water, current, water. Current is also divide the word current and you have the word rent at the end. So you're paying rent to play in the currency of the water jurisdiction. It's all about language, decodifying it. So the reason why the judge got up and left is because it's not a real constitutionally compliant court, meaning organic constitution from 1776 by we the people, as Ananda was saying. It is an instrumentality, in other words, a franchise, and the judge is an employee of the corporation. If you look at corporation again, corpse, Asian, right? Asian is part of a nation. A nation, if you look up the word nation, nation is loosely translated a group of collective consciousness. People believe the same thing, and it's similar to a religion, but you can look up for yourself. Now, if you have a corporation, you're having a nation of the dead. So it's legal fictions playing in a legal fiction world called the Corporation of the United States of America, right? Or global corporation. It's all people passing papers, or not people, but persons passing papers, trading on the open market. It's just creating currency in a water jurisdiction through paper. And because your firefighter went in and declared and decreed, because he's a sovereign, he can do that, that he is unalienable right, he left the nation of the dead and entered into the nation of the living as a living, breathing man or woman, where living is. And in contract law, only like can contract with like. In other words, only the living can contract with living, and only the dead can contract with the dead. Well, how does the dead contract with the dead? On paper, because that's where it exists. And then they have a representative of that piece of paper that represents that piece of paper. You can call that an attorney, or you can call that an agent, or you can call that a judge who represents the state or the franchise that that court is housed in. So when the firefighter went in there, he changed what's called the jurisdiction. Jurisdiction is, the diction is language. Juris is like law, the law language, right? So he changed the language from the dead to the living when he says, I have unalienable rights. So the judge said, oh, I'm not in the same jurisdiction. I got to leave. So he got up and left. And the bailiff went, I guess I have to turn off the mic because we can't hear him anymore, literally, because hearing means like mind to like mind. In other words, it's a contract. We agree. We can hear each other. But because the firefighter changed the jurisdiction to the living, of course, the dead can't hear the living. Therefore, the judge gets up with his black robe and leaves. So that's how the scientific, legal, and spiritual realm all kind of meet in the same place, and that place is called the truth.
That's amazing. And what happened was the judge came back and then he pleaded for Matt. He actually said, we're going to, this is going to go to trial and you're pleading guilty. And you hear Matt saying, no, I do not. You cannot plead for me. And it was like a whole big mess. And then, and you guys, if you want to watch the video, it's on my YouTube channel. But, and then what happened was, he came in special appearance again to that court date, and the policeman didn't show up because this was a traffic violation thing, and then it got thrown out. So,
There you
but
go.
and the judge waited.
Hallelujah.
The judge waited until everybody was out of the room before he brought Matt up because he knew it was going to be a big thing. So
Yeah,
Yeah.
and you know, that's what we tell most of the people that we work with. If they're going in to stand before a judge or a magistrate in the foreign court, the foreign corporate court, um, we tell them right away to, oh God, I just lost my train of thought. What were you just talking about?
The judge
Pleading,
came in and
pleading.
Oh,
pleaded
oh,
for,
they will never reveal the myth of the court. The
yes, correct.
judge, the bailiff, none of them. They will never reveal the myth of the court. They will act like the Wizard of Oz, the big, scary, fiery Oz. But that's why they cleared the room. They had to clear the room because they don't want the cat getting out of the bag. But here's the thing, the cat's already out of the bag. It is not going back in. There's too
Right.
many of us who know this stuff, who are learning this stuff, who are sharing this stuff. Michelle, you are such a light, because going in to sit with the mayor to explain some of these things, that's power right there. That's coming in as a true friend of the court. We always approach this. We say we're curious, not furious. We're not there to fight. And we go back to the original. It's united we stand. It's not united we fight. That's their world and their construct. Even those names on their name badges, the all caps name, those are the ships. You spoke about the ships. They named the ship. So when they wear that badge, it's also called, that all caps name is called a nom de guerre. And I don't know if my French accent is very good, but it's French, and translated, it means name of war. Well, we don't participate in war. We are the children of God, and we declare peace upon the land. And we're not playing in your war game. We're opting out. We mean no disrespect. We're just not going to ever have a meeting of the minds, because we don't participate in war games. We are the living.
Love it.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. I mean, when you think about it, it's like everything they do is an offer.
Mhm.
That ticket, that traffic ticket, that's an offer. But it's not really an offer if they're carrying a weapon on their hip. Is that really a true, genuine, you know, a pleasant meeting, that of meeting of the minds? No, that's under duress. That's threatening.
Yes.
That's bullying. That's their only game that they know,
And
because
they're
that's the
bullies.
game they want us to play in. So it's not a true offer. And we
Yep, they're
simply could
absolute
say
bullies.
thank you, but no thank you.
Yes, and that's the other thing too, you guys. If you have documentation that you get from court systems, what she's saying is it's an offer, but it's put in the sense of they want you scared. They want you scared so they can make money. That's the whole game. And I just want to say, please join my Rumble channel, because I'm kind of playing on the edge right now, and I don't know about this channel. So just join my Rumble channel. It's in the description. It's Blossom Inner Wellness Rumble. But anyway, Jason, thank you so much for that. Ananda, that was perfect. Let's go back to the Hawaii Constitution, because I'm sure my Hawaiian friends are like, take me back to the Constitution, Michelle. So let's do that.
All right, let's do it. So now with all these, they weren't really tangents. They were more further information and education, which when we look back at this, what we've decided to be or concluded to be a trust indenture, we might be able to see even more clearly what the language is. So Declaration of Rights, both of the people. Remember, it didn't say persons. Now we know it's the people. So this is a living document. And chiefs. So this goes back to indigenous tribal times. God hath made of one blood. This is all living language. It's talking about blood, one blood. Okay, of one blood. That means we're created. This goes back to biblical principles. We are created in the image of our creator. So there's this king is saying the same thing. God had made of one blood a nations. We talked about nations of men. They didn't say persons. To dwell. Dwell is different than reside. Residence is corporate language. Dwelling is indigenous language. On the earth, right? Earth is not in a zip code. It's the entire planet. Zip codes are bank codes. I'll say that again. Zip codes are banking codes. There's
Wow.
12 districts across the nation, 12 district courts. They're all different departments of the said corporations, and zip codes are the codes. And there's different nine different districts within the 12, and the nine districts are the zip codes that basically say where the resident is doing their banking on behalf of the corporation. That's why they always want the zip code. But here it says you're dwelling on the earth in unity and blessedness. God has also bestowed, again, bestowed is another way of saying granted, given certain rights alike on all men. and chiefs. They didn't say persons. And all people, very specific language, people of all lands. Again, not residents, not zip codes, none of these things. It's on the land, which is what we were saying before, which is why we love the Hawaiian people, because this Hawaiian people are indigenous to the land. And I'll just read the next paragraph. These are some of the rights which he, meaning God, has given alike to every man. Man means both man and woman, just so we know that. You can break that down and prove that in the Hebrew language, which we won't do today. And every chief of correct deportment, chief meaning the heads of the different tribes, right? Life. So your number one right is to live. That was God gave it to you. So for life to life to life. Limb, liberty, well, liberty, freedom from oppression. Wow, read that one again. Freedom from oppression, meaning you're not a subject, meaning you can't be coerced, meaning you're a sovereign. Okay. And anytime someone or someone's try to oppress or repress you, the people, you have to tap into your sovereignty like Michelle did and remember who you are and say, wait, you are not only in violation of my God-given rights, but violation of the trust indenture called the First Constitution of Hawaii, which still exists today. Right? Because all constitutions, everything are supposed to protect. They don't give you rights. They protect what is already inside of you that is granted to you by the most high trusty grantor, which is God. God can be translated to grantor of dominion. And if you look up dominion, meaning one who owns the dominion of dominion is God, grantor of dominion. And if you, there's a maximum law, that which creates controls. So if God created you in the image of God, then the only one that can control you, quote unquote, control you is your creator, which is God. And if you're in the image, that means you're sovereign, which means the only one who's in any creative, quote unquote, control of their life is you. Okay. So you also have the right of the earnings of his by his own hands. It's not, it's that's also living language. And the productions of his mind, which means you can create, visualize, use the power and the gifts of your mind. Not, however, to those who act in violation of the laws. What does that mean? Lonanda, what is the law? It's very simple.
Well, if you break down the jurisdictions, it's land, air, and water. So it's everything and all the creepy, creepy things.
Right. And what is the,
Is that what you're leading me to
yes, and
say?
but also when it says in violation of the law, what is the only violations of true law?
Oh, well, the law boils down to two things.
There you go.
Okay, so we keep our word, keep our promises. That's the basis of contract law. And we do no harm to other people or their property. That's
You,
it. Don't
okay.
trespass against someone and keep your word. That's the
So
law. That's
that's
how
it.
basic the law is. And the oh, now you got me started. There are over 300,000 statutes at the federal level and over 60 million statutes at the state level with all 50 states combined. It's a sea of chaos. And yet the law is so simple. It's two things: keep your word and do no harm. That's there. It's all mind. It's all construct of the mind. It's a never ending rabbit hole into
That,
chaos and no solutions to
That's right.
yeah.
complex
And
problems.
I want to tell you too that we have Gene Thomasero, who's really great because he goes into court system and he's like, you know, who did I injure? Where's the injured party? You know,
That's
is
right.
you know, and that's the thing. It's all and it always blows my mind because these legislative bodies, their job is to create more rules against the people
That's
every
right.
single year. And I think
Mhm.
it's like, when is enough enough? When are the people going to be enough is enough of this? You know, we
Mhm.
the thing I was showing you prior about the United Nations with the guy who'd worked for them for 18 almost 18 years, you know, at the end he says, you you're supposed to just live your life, live in nature, and just be, you know, happy. And he goes, they don't want you to find love, they don't want you to experience that, they want you on your phones and on your devices and not connecting with each other, and in fear, because that's how they gain control. And they were just a bunch of bullies, an absolute bunch of bullies.
100% accurate. And that's why, which I love with this Constitution that was beautifully drafted by this king, because it's all about the living. And the two elements of the law that Ananda just described is all living. So when you go back to that last paragraph, it's saying you have all these rights given to you by your creator. However, to those who act in violation of the law, you basically give up those rights. And that means if you harm somebody else, it's the golden rule. It guts down to simplistic biblical principles, Old and New Testament biblical principles, let alone Eastern philosophies and other type of unity philosophies and religions around the world. They're all saying the same thing. Love thy neighbor as thyself, because just as this beautiful Constitution says, God hath made of one blood in all nations, meaning we are one. And that's what the Babylonian Empire doesn't want us to know, because if we are one, then, and living in that consciousness, then the Babylonian construct by definition will fall. The Tower of Babel will fall because they need separation, they need war, they need conflict to survive. That's why they're creating wars all over the place. That's why they're creating pronouns or whatever, just to continue to separate people, as opposed to living the truth and the reality, which is we are one blood in all nations. So let's,
Separate and getting people's reaction. That's why I'm like, you guys, this is, they're saying, these uh drag queens are doing these story times for these children. I'm like, that's gonna get a reaction out of parents. That's the whole point. That's the
right.
whole point, you guys. It's reaction and it's fear. And
Yeah.
so I have a question with you around this, because the Hawaii General Plan map of 2045, the one that they're trying to put through here, wants to make most of Big Island conservation. Some landowners, property owners, have gotten letters that said your ag land is going to change to conservation land use, which is like no farming, no building, no living. It's only a park that can really be on conservation, as well as your ag land. Another person got a letter that said your ag land is going to turn now to recreation, which changes the land use, which will allow for the rezoning. These people's property value is going to be dropping. Isn't that a violation of their right to own property? Because it doesn't say in the Constitution, you have the right to own property, and the planning department gets to tell you what to do with it, and the state can tax you for, raise your taxes on your property thousands of dollars each year. I mean, where is the line here from property people who have the right to own property and the government telling them what to do with that property and then taxing the bejeejies out of them?
That's
Where's
right.
Right.
that line?
Right. You get my heart rate up on this topic because this is so imperative for people to get.
And
That
Jason, would you
land is,
stop screen for a moment, please?
For
what's
sure.
that?
Go ahead.
So yeah, so land is to be granted, and it's not supposed to be my land or your land. It's the land. Now, the true Hawaiian people know this. The land was granted to us by God Almighty. We're to be stewards of the land. But because the world is as it is and Babylonian Empire is as it is, if there's going to be anyone who's going to own the land, it needs to be the people, the godly people, to hold title, hold proper title. The only way to do that is through what is called land patent and alloidial title. And if you can declare and decree not only your sovereignty, but you claim your superior property, title, superior title, you claim the land, you claim the property, which is called res. Now, I'm going to borrow some of Lee Merritt's language here. I saw a beautiful interview with her the other day, and she said, what happened in Lahaina is equivalent to what happened in Pearl Harbor. Only back then they had airplanes and words that we can't say on this channel. That was very obvious. It was very blatant. But now with things like DEW and the like, it's so covert that you can't see it, but the destruction is actually worse than what happened during Pearl Harbor. So now what to do? The res, Jason spoke of it earlier. He mentioned resident is different than dwelling. If you break down the word res, now we're going back to trust language. That's the property, the res. Well, what did they do with the indigenous people in America? They roped them up and got them into the reservation. Oh, this land is for you. No, they're trying to rope up the people like cattle to get them into the smart cities. The only way that we can avoid this happening is through having conversations like this. The more people that become aware, learn how to develop their right law language, learn your state constitution, learn the national constitution if you're on the mainland, and stand firmly upon it, because it has everything you need to uphold the directives of the trust. And the trust was granted from God Almighty. Now, first and foremost, here in America, the original constitution of the people, by the people, for the people, common law, constitutional law jurisdiction was written based on biblical principles. So we can go back to the Bible, go back to Genesis and open up. It's the first 5 books of Moses. It is the original trust indenture, which spells out the law. Jason said it earlier, grantor of dominion. God granted to us dominion over. He didn't grant it to greed mongers who want more for them and none for us. It's our time. That's why we call ourselves Americans in Action. Christo, he's such a visionary, and he knew. He says, my loves, he says, love equals action. Love is action. If we sit and do nothing, this is how communism works. So there's ways. And one of the most beautiful interviews I've ever seen on the topic of land patents is our founder doing a little shout out to our founder of Americans in Action. If you go to americansinaction.info and you click on Hidden Truth News and scroll down, he does an interview with the foremost expert in America on land patents. His name is Ron Gibson. And he walks you through, get your pad and paper because it's like class time, and just make notes, because then you can learn how to claim the property that was supposed to be ours in the first place and not used for their whatever they're calling it, uh, conservation project. But
Yeah,
they're lying. They're lying. It's for them. They just want us in little smart cities.
that's right. I mean, if you see this map, it's like most of the Big Island, they want to turn to conservation. They want other parts to be natural with limited people. These are ag lands. You know, Hawaii, all of the Hawaii Islands used to be self-sufficient. They didn't have ships coming, you know. So, and now we are 90% of what we need here is brought in by a ship. That's pretty dang scary. So we need to reverse that like as soon as possible. But it's not through conservation, it's through growing more food. So yeah, thank you for that, Ananda. And I will put that, you guys, not only in the link in this description, I'll go find that video and share it, put it in the link, but I'm also going to put it on the Freedom School that I have. It's free, and it's just the information that I've gathered myself. Check out americansinaction.info for any more information, but you can also go to Blossom Inner Wellness is my site, and I just have my journey, everything that I've done to get out of the system. I just share, and it's for free on that blossominnerwellness.com. Jason, you want to go back to the Constitution and share anything else from that? That's really
Yeah,
important.
we can, I mean, everybody can go find that Constitution too. I can probably email you the link, and then if you want to put it in your chat below. But it's important everybody reads it. And in addition to reading that, and adding to what Ananda just said, is read your state of Hawaii codes and statutes. You can just look all those up online. And why do I say that? Because when residents are receiving letters from quote unquote powers that be that said that they're going to turn the ag land into conservation, it's an offer. I'm going to say that again. The letter is an offer. What does that mean? It means they're telling you what they're intending to do, and what they're not telling you is that if you don't do anything about it, it's going to happen. So that means it goes back to what not only what is written on the document, what is not written on the document. They're saying, here's our intention. we're warning you. It's like the bully, like you said, I'm going to hit you in the arm unless you give me your lunch money. What he's not saying is you have the option not to give me your lunch money, and you have the option to peacefully dissolve this whole confrontation through negotiation. Oh, you need some lunch money? No problem, brother. You don't have to hit me. I got a couple dollars. How about I share it with you? And you become his friend. You discharge the energy, right? So when the offer comes into the mail and says we're going to take your land, basically, unless you do something, right? There are many things that you can do peacefully, lawfully, and legally. And the reason why I say legal, because legal is the construct of the corporation that within their statutes, they'll have certain protections that you can find as a resident to protect your land unless you volunteer to give it away. One of those things, legally and lawfully, is like what Ananda is talking about, the allodial titles. In addition to that, you also can write letters to those who are saying that they're going to take the land and ask them from where are they deriving that authority. And that doesn't mean confrontational, just being like, I'm confused. I'm just wanting to know where are they standing upon to have this alleged authority to take this land. In other words, where's the title? Where's your chain of title that shows that you have an interest in said property? Right? Because if a landowner has the title and it's been zoned, so you start getting into all the different statutes and contracts and stuff like that. But when you go down that journey, you can find remedy potentially in addition to a loyal title and other remedies. Okay. So you can do these things peacefully and lawfully, but you have to get educated. And then, as we were saying, you have to take action. That's how you can stop it. You know,
So
Well, go
go
ahead.
ahead. Oh, I'm
Well,
just curious about I love to give people examples. So you're saying that if somebody gets a letter like this, that they can just write a letter themselves back to the planning department and asking them, where's your authority to change my land use?
Yeah, so everything that we're saying here, just so you know, is for education and entertainment purposes only. You must do your own due diligence. We're not attorneys or financial advisors, and we don't guarantee any outcomes. We're just giving you some guidance and education purposes. However, what you can do is you have to first read what they're writing to you because the language, again, is very specific. So what we do is when we receive any letter from Babylon, we look at it and we dissect the language, and then you can draft up a proper response based upon what they sent you. Just think of it as a game, volleyball or tennis, they play in a court. Somebody volleys over and then the other one volleys back. Basketball, the same thing. They play on a court. So it's a game back and forth. But in order to be successful at the game, you have to know what the strategies are from the other team and what they're doing in that moment. That strategy is the letter that one will receive. Oh, they just volleyed something over into my side of the court. Let me read what they volleyed, and now I can volley back. So, depending on what's written in those letters, is how you respond. Now, the concept is when you receive a letter, you read it, you respond to whoever sent it to you, and then you start the questioning process, or you point out very peacefully, calmly, like you did with the mayor, hey, there appears to be some sort of contradiction here based upon your own language, which states in this particular statute. So I'm confused as how you're saying that you can change this AG to conservatory conservation based upon the law.
Right. I'm
I won't,
almost
I won't,
out.
I
I
won't,
got
I
May
won't do it.
22nd and I'm off
I won't
probation
do it.
again.
But that's how we kept businesses open, using the law and the language within the law. Okay. And so part of the remedies, Christo, the founder of Americans Action, says there's always a remedy. And the remedy comes from equity, meaning God's law, even if that remedy appears within the at law jurisdiction, meaning the corporate jurisdiction, because you have quote unquote rights and laws and so on and so forth, and benefits, which is trust language, within their own jurisdiction. You just have to find it. So that's what Wizard of Oz is. Follow the yellow brick road, meaning follow the money. You'll see the illusion, the man behind the curtain, but you can also find the remedy. So that's why I'm saying not only study the living law, which is the Constitution, 1840, and knowing who you are as a living, breathing man or woman, biblical principles, but also know to the best of your abilities, and for every case, because it's a case basis, what they're standing upon.
Mhm.
They always try to stand upon some sort of statute or whatever, or a claim. But
Yes.
when somebody brings forth a claim, that who brings forth the claim in a court must prove that claim. Therefore, you respond with your volley back. Well, you're claiming you have an interest in this land. Please show me the title.
You know, it's so funny that you say that. And you know what I want to do too, you guys? Join standtogetherhawaii.com, because what I want to do is I want to send you guys an email of anybody who's gotten these letters. And I want to have us hire Americans in Action together and do a class of just getting a sample letter that we could that you guys can then send to the planning department, because I want to honor their work and also help you guys with these letters, because I know these are scary and people are like, what do I do with this? But let's do it together. So join standtogetherhawaii.com. And then the other thing I want to say is I went to I was telling the chair of our county council, Heather Kimball, I said, you guys don't, I said, what right do you guys to have to tell people what to do with their property? And she goes, it's the law. And I'm like, where? Where in the law does it say you have a right to tell somebody, you know, what to do with their constitutional right to own property? Where does it say that, oh, and you have the right to own property, but the county gets to tell you what to do with it? Where is it said that? Where does it say that? And she obviously she didn't reply to me. But that's when,
But that's exactly what we're saying. They have to stand upon it. If they make a blanket statement, anybody, this doesn't matter if it's the county or the person at the grocery store or anybody who makes a claim, specifically one that says it's the law. Oh, great, no problem. Show me.
Yeah.
yeah,
Because we're not about breaking the law, but
yeah.
I'd like to know which law you're citing.
Mhm.
And if you can't cite that specific law, verse, chapter, whatever, line, then it's just an assumed and a presumed agreement of which people will voluntarily give up their sovereignty and
Oh,
acquiesce to somebody who says, oh, it's the law.
because they're a bunch
Really?
of bullies.
Because they're a
Right.
bunch of bullies. They have nothing to
And
stand upon.
yeah, and as sovereigns who we're remembering who we are. Children of God we are, and we've been ordained by God to be stewards of the land and to protect the property written into the trust. So, we're trust protectors. And then with that, as we're standing firmly on the land, oh God, I keep losing my thought today. This is horrible. Ah, sorry,
Talking about
finish
land,
my sentence.
talking about the fact that they don't have the right, the Constitution says you have the right to own property. There's no place in the Constitution does it say, but the planning department and the county council get to tell you what to do with it.
Oh, I know. I thank you. Thank you so much. Okay, so when we as children of God, we are standing, if we make a claim, we back it up with fact, law, evidence, witnesses, our own experience, our testimony, because the truth is sovereign. Even in one of their own maxims, it's in commerce, the truth is sovereign. So when you go in and they make a claim and you make a counterclaim, you have the truth on your side to back you up and witnesses and the Constitution. That's why you can be in a republic, you can be one and be the majority. Whereas in a democracy, it's just mob rule. And that's all they're
Mhm.
standing upon. They're not standing on true law. But I love what Jason said about looking up those statutes and codes, because, even though legalese is a foreign language to the children of God, it's okay, when you're visiting a foreign country, a foreign nation, you might want to know a little bit of the language so you can get by, but you're just letting them know, I'm not fluent in legalese, so I'm going to remain on the land and use simple layman's terms. And I don't mean that as an insult. It's just very simple language
Yes.
because God's law is simple. It was written in the hearts of all men, as Thomas Jefferson said. And that means if we look to our hearts, we know the law. So we don't need to have a law degree. We don't even need to know how to read or write. We simply know because we come to the knowing. Even when you're standing, people say, well, what is standing? It means standing in your knowing. You're one with your creator God. You speak from your heart. You tell the truth. you bring your evidence, your witnesses. This is all biblical principles. So it makes it so much more easy and less intimidating, because that's the other thing. One of their tactics they use is intimidation, because of their big fancy language and their suits and their big buildings and their seal. You said when you went in and you saw the
Yes.
seal, and it looks so official and so intimidating,
Yep.
and they act like, no, this is it. This is it. And all they're trying to do is convince you that this is it. And we're saying, no, this isn't it.
That's right. Absolutely. So I do have a question around that, because what if in the law somewhere, I haven't read all the statutes of Hawaii, but it does, what if in the law it says somewhere in there around the planning department telling people what to do with their property? I don't know how that bill would be written, but that is like,
Here's the thing, there's always a remedy. Now, if constitutionally compliant in the Constitution, whether it's this original Constitution that we were looking at, the 1840, or whether it's the uh, 1890 last ratified, or 1949 last ratified, in other words, the one that is for the people, nothing, and the federal Constitution too, Article 6, Section 2, the supremacy clause, I believe that's the right citation of it. Um, Nothing can override the Constitution. So if the statutes, because even in their own legalese, the premise is that their statutes have to be compliant with the original organic Constitution. So
nice.
if anything, if there was a statute that violates a person's unalienable right, or a man or woman's unalienable right to own land, then that statute by definition would be null and void. So you can make that argument. You can also dissect any of the statutes, which we've done several times, to prove their invalidation, and say, hey, this doesn't make sense. So right now it's a good question to look up and find it. And then once you find it, there always would be something to counter it. And you can always stand upon another statute, like it says, if it says once you own the land, there'll be a statute that it's yours and you have the title and it's down in the recorder's office. If you have a certificate of a title, well, now you have to say, well, who owns the title? And how come I wasn't disclosed that? And now you go down that path. So there's all sorts of different avenues, but it's about going down the rabbit hole and having the tenacity, the courage. And most people, through design indoctrination over 150 years, have not had the facilities within themselves to go forth and go down the rabbit hole. And that's how the Babylonian Empire has slowly indoctrinated and taken over, because most people don't have the capacity to go, like what you're doing, Michelle, and others that we work with, Americans in Action, to go and say, wait a minute, something's not right. So they were able to take advantage of people. But now, like Ananda was saying, the people are waking up because there is a consciousness shift on the planet where people are waking up, because I like to say, like water, the truth always comes to the surface. So if the foundation of a Babylonian empire was built off of false premise, then by definition, just like biblical principle says, the Tower of Babel, aka the corporate construct called the United States, will inevitably fall, just like a sandcastle on the beach. Water
Love it.
jurisdiction and land jurisdiction all coming together, but the sand will eventually dissolve as the water comes onto the shore, guided by the energy called the air jurisdiction. So when that happens, the fallacies of the castle that looks so real will tumble, and then the people are let free, but they have to know how to stand. And we can work with that so that you can expedite those processes a lot more with clean hands, education, and implementation.
Love
Oh,
it. Go ahead.
yeah, and it's so simple because, when you look at the world of legalese and courtrooms and attorneys and judges and the whole construct, they're always walking in with their, 100-page testimony and this motion, and it's 30 pages. We do simple old-fashioned letter writing. It's one page, maybe two, maybe three. It's so elegant. It's simple. That way we can get on with enjoying our lives. We don't have to have 700 pages of this case that I've been working on for the last 6 years, and now my shoulders are hunched over and I can't even sit up straight because I've been just buried in my paperwork. No, it is so cool. That's why God's law is so brilliant. It's just quick, it's easy, the remedy is there, and even let's say you had to go and stand in one of their corporate constructs and speak before a judge or a magistrate. Even in the Bible, I forget what verse, I'm not a Bible scholar, but I just love hearing about the verses that talk about when you're in the court, let God be your voice. This
Mhm.
really happens.
It
I've
does.
had experiences with this where I'm like, "What did I just say?" And then later I'm like, "Oh my, that was God working through me."
That's right.
Using us as divine instruments for the truth to come out and for the remedy to present itself. Because we may not know as we're walking into the room, but appetite comes as you eat. So as you're doing the processes, as you're standing, as you don't have courage, you're shaking sometimes. Your voice is shaking when you go in. The courage is kind of the after reward of standing. It's not
Mm.
like, "Oh, I've got courage and I'm gonna go do this." Like, no, it's scary, but you face the
And
fear and you
that's
walk
what they want,
through.
and you keep stepping forward. I love it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Jason, thank you so much for that, Ananda. Was there anything
Sure.
else you wanted to share about the Constitution of Hawaii before we?
Um, I mean, I don't know. We can just share it real quick and see if there's anything there. If I can share my
Because
screen.
this is still valid. This is not null and void just because of the takeover.
Yeah. Um, you have to be willing to stand upon it though, and be able to make that quote unquote argument that it's still applicable. And if they try to say it's not applicable, well, then your response to that is show me when it went from being applicable to not applicable. In other words,
So
what
let's just scroll
invalidated
down
it?
to that third paragraph, and we'll end with that one.
Okay. And then it just goes on to protection for the people declared and stuff like that. And then it goes into rights and articles, which is all a trust indenture. So God has also established government and rule for the purpose of peace. Well, that's interesting. This is such beautiful language in here. But in making laws for the nation, it is by no means proper to enact laws for the protection of the rulers only. So there's your question to the board.
That's right.
Well, this particular constitution says specifically that the laws can't make a law that protects the rulers, right? So you're in violation of the 1840 Constitution that's still alive, unless you can show me where it was not alive. In other words, where do you have the authority to take this land? That
That's right.
statute is null and void based upon this paragraph right here of this original Constitution.
Yes,
Without also,
and they're not really taking it, they're actually changing the land use, which is going to end up rezoning that area, which is going to lower the person's property value. And then there's so many places in this general plan that say acquire and acquisition, which is very concerning. And they
so
want to create a whole database of anybody who goes into the planning department to change something on their land. They will inventory people's property to then for possible acquisition. So
wow.
I mean, it's
When they say possible acquisition, what they're saying is our intention is to take your land.
yes, correct.
So, but now if you look here in this third paragraph, they can't make laws to do that without also providing protection for their quote unquote subjects. Okay, that would be the people. In other words, there's a remedy where you can counter their intentions, okay, with your intention. Neither is it proper to enact laws to enrich the chiefs only without regard to enriching the subjects also. In other words, everybody has to win. And hereafter there shall by no means be any laws enacted which are at variance with what is above expressed. Remember, nothing can violate the Constitution. So what they're saying is there can't be any laws, there can't be any codes that will violate this very Constitution that we're reading right now. Okay? Neither shall any tax be assessed. What? Read that paragraph again. Neither shall, or sentence, neither shall any tax be assessed, nor any service or labor required of any man, meaning a living, breathing man or woman, in a manner which it is at variance with the above sentiments. In other words, you are always sovereign. The above sentiments, everything in the above of this paragraph stands. Nothing can invalidate what stands. And now if you look at the Bill of Rights for the United States of America, I think it's amendment number 9, says no other laws can invalidate these said amendments. And I'm paraphrasing it.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's always in there. So we can stand upon these laws if you know A, who you are, meaning a spirit-filled man or woman endowed by your creator, and B, what the language is written to protect your endowment by the creator. Just like you've been doing, Michelle, and hopefully you're inspiring many of your viewers to do the same because, again, it comes to United We Stand, and you have the law on your side. It's written right here in this Constitution. And as Anana said, it's in your heart and you know it. You just have to speak it. And these documents teach you how to articulate it more clearly from your heart.
So I have a question. Go ahead and stop screen share. Thank you so much for that, you guys. You guys can definitely look that up. I have a question. If somebody gets a property tax bill, and this is only for educational and entertainment purposes only, please do your own due diligence before doing any action. And you take full responsibility for your actions. And so if somebody gets a tax bill, that is an offer, isn't that? Wouldn't that be an offer? And could they then write a letter saying something to the effect of, and I don't know the language for it, of what it would be like, but this just said, no tax shall be assessed. And people have taxes on their income and on their property, which is also against the Constitution because the only tax that should be assessed is by population, not that's actually in the Constitution. So anyway, that's another topic. But this question is around property taxes because everybody's asking me, what are property taxes, Michelle? Because their property taxes are going from like 200 to 2,000 or more. I mean, their property taxes are off the charts right now. And so my question is a property tax bill, is that an offer? Like it's a big question.
It is a big
Well,
question. Go ahead.
yeah. We are not tax accountants and we don't give tax advice. So anything we share is not to be construed as financial advice or tax advice. But yeah, it is an offer. But here's the conundrum. We know what they're capable of, and what they have done and what we've seen them do is enforce the sale even of trust property, violating the trust. So that's why they call it law enforcement, is because they have to use their force in order to get their end game. So in standing, that's why uniting is imperative. Standing alone, they could pluck us off one by one. Standing together, now we can have a conversation and we will be heard. But until you learn all of the parts and pieces that you need to learn, I don't recommend challenging that. And if you can justify it in your being by, I'm being aware of what the game is, and you're choosing to opt in temporarily until the political climate changes because you don't want any trouble. But their intention, of course, is to keep raising those taxes, so then we're drowning and then we can't
Yeah,
keep up,
drowning.
and then they come in and do the land grab. That's all they want. That is their end game. Monopoly. That's how I used to win at Monopoly, is I would just buy every property I'd land on. It was so easy for me to see that as a child. I was like, "Oh, I can win because I'm just gonna own everything." And then that's what they're doing. That's what they're trying to do. So we have to use finesse while we're standing. Now, here's an idea. Now, I have not done this, but this is an idea that I had. What if, so when you're opt in to paying property taxes voluntarily, right? Because you're not under duress, you're doing it because you want to opt in because you like things like fire protection and, having the public roads repaired, what have you. You could claim a allodial title, proper jurisdiction, or excuse me, land patent, allodial title, proper jurisdiction. This is just theoretically, I'm throwing out some ideas. for folks to ponder. And then have all that should anything come down the pipeline, but continue to pay the property taxes until the political climate changes a little bit more. We know that their construct is collapsing, but we don't want to put ourselves as being targeted. So you have to use some finesse while you're playing on the playing board. It's a very elaborate chessboard. There's different jurisdictions. So once you learn your jurisdictions, you can play in any jurisdiction, meaning you put on a different hat for different times. So anyway, that's some food for thought. That's my point of view at this time. Just
Okay,
at
that
this
was great.
time. But
Yeah.
things are changing, so we'll
And
see.
also again, it's when they send you a document, read what
Right.
they're saying. And I agree with Ananda wholeheartedly on that. And then also you can read what they're saying, and then you know the statutes, and you write a volley back with some questions.
Mhm.
Like where is the land patent, or the Constitution says this, or I mean, where's your property interest, or who are you paying the property taxes to, and do they own? We had some people do this in Florida. He sent two letters up to, who was it? Was it either the AG or a group of these people? I forget exactly who it was, and they went silent. And then because they can't answer those questions, because they don't have an interest in their property. They threw out some case law. And then if they throw out a case law, first of all, case law is not law. Case law is an opinion, and a case law it pertains only to that said case. That's how you override case law. You just find out how the case that you're currently involved in is not pertinent to the case law that's being cited. That's how they do it all the time. All you need, it's like all you need is like 1 to 2%, and these are just random percentages of one, but a similar, a different perspective on that case law to the case that's being heard, and now that case law is invalid. That's it. So when he wrote back and said this case law is not valid, they wrote back and said we're standing behind the case law. Okay, you wrote back the case law is not valid. They went silent because they can't answer those questions. So now it's up to him to continue to pursue if he so chooses, right? But that's part of the game. You got to keep going until you get some sort of document or something that they recognize that says, hey, I'm out of your jurisdiction and you have no authority over this particular land. I have a title, a superior title. Then superior title is the Constitution as well. And I'm outside of that system. So what land? And so there's so many different creative ways to do it. But again, you have to be conscientious and responsible for whatever you put out, because you have to also know who you're dealing with.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
it's
by the
true.
way, just one more thought, and then I'll yield. When you are living, and Krista talks about this all the time, in the kingdom of heaven, when you're living in the spirit consciousness, when you're living in the world of the love and knowing who you are, miracles will happen.
I believe in that for sure.
I
Go
do
ahead.
too. I do too. And I love that was the key word, is that creative, because we're facing problems that our generations before us have never faced before. So we have to be creative as we go. Jason always talks about when with the parting of the Red Sea, the water was up over their noses. They were drowning, and they still had to trust God and take that next step forward. Only then did the sea part. So that's where we're at. We're drowning. The water's up to here, and we're going, you want me to trust God and keep going? And the answer is yes. Want you
Yeah.
to trust God and keep going. And so you keep standing. And then the opening appears
Mhm.
as you trust. So we trust in God. It's esoteric in nature, and trust is relationship also. As we nurture our relationship with our creator God, the way is shown. And
That's
so
right.
it's so creative. And we get to be little demigods, little mini creators, because we're created in the image and likeness of our creator. So as we get creative, this is this brainstorming in these roundtables that we have. This is where we start coming up with ideas. Another one I thought of while you all were chatting, is here in Oregon, we have what's called a homestead exemption. And we've heard of people applying for the homestead exemption, where if you're doing some sort of farming, farmland, homestead, so look at your laws in Hawaii and see if something like that exists, because you can literally lawfully avoid paying taxes by a homestead exemption from what I've heard. Rumor has it. So something to research for sure.
Yeah. Yep. Awesome.
Yeah.
Well,
By the
thank you
way,
so much.
I
Oh, go ahead.
emailed you already the link to the 1840 Constitution for you
Okay.
to review.
Oh, wonderful. So I'll put that in the description as well as the other things that I shared. Excuse me. Okay, let's go ahead and pray. And actually, I'm having a tickle. Would one of you guys mind praying today?
I default to Ananda.
Oh, thank you. I'm so honored. Most beloved Father, most divine blessed Mother, great spirit that lives within each and every one of us. We are so grateful for the happening. We are overcomers. We are rising to the occasion. God, we know that you have us here for this time, this higher purpose, for your higher love and the highest good for all of your people. We pray for the kingdom of Hawaii. We know that the kingdom of Hawaii is alive and well. Breathing new life into the Constitution. It was dormant and dusty, but it's not dead. It's alive and well. And we're going to use it. We're going to use it for the benefit of your land, your people, and the good of all. And we feel compassionate towards the players in the corporation because they were lied to. And so we are coming as true friends of the court to address the matter, to remedy the matter, to offer creative solutions, to share information and wisdom so that we may heal. We've suffered so much tyranny and oppression. We're ready for the healing. Let the healing begin. We receive your guidance. We receive your love. We receive these creative solutions. And we request quick, quick. So it is done. We feel like we're dog paddling sometimes, and we just want to be able to swim and frolic freely in your divine love so that we have kingdom of heaven here on earth and forevermore. So be it, and so it is done.
Oh, it is. I love it.
Yeah,
All
beautiful.
right, you guys.
Beautiful.
So again, americansinaction.info. Please join standtogetherhawaii.com. If you guys have gotten a letter from the planning department, I am going to create a class of some sort that has Americans in Action help with creating a letter that we can send, you guys can send back to the planning department that will just ask some questions like what right do they have to change your land use and rezone you. So thank you so much for joining me. You guys, any last thoughts? You're welcome to share. And if not, we'll say aloha.
Just mucho mahalo. We love you. We love you. Thank you for having us on your beautiful podcast. And thank you for holding the light for Hawaii. And we're trying to spread the word as much as we can here on the mainland because this is an important topic. Michelle, what you're doing, this is such important divine work. And I just cannot thank you enough. It's an honor to be on your show. Thank you. And it's so fun to get to know you.
To you as well.
I concur. And by the way, we're having we have free Q&As where everybody around the nation comes in online. And I think we're having one coming up. You can check our website for that. And then we're having workshops too. You can check our website for those dates. And we'd love to come out to see you guys too. So if you guys want to put together a workshop out there, we would love to see you guys doing that. It's so much more powerful in when we're face to face, man to man, woman to woman, man to woman, woman to man, all that. So much more synergy. And I'm just grateful to be here. And thank you, Michelle, for hosting this. And keep on keeping on with the light.
All
God
right, you guys.
wins.
Nice. Well, I'll definitely set that up. We'll figure that out. All right. Aloha, everyone.
Aloha.
Well,